Hello and welcome back to her Gypsy Rebel podcast with your host Jacqueline Van Bierk. How are you guys doing today? We are a little late this week, and that's totally fine because shit happens sometimes, and it's just another sign and another message from me to you to tell you that don't beat yourself up. And sometimes things come and get in the way, and you adjust, and it's fine. Nobody's getting hurt. You know what I mean? I know this sounds kind of funny, but I know that oftentimes that's what we do, right? Anyway, I don't want to make it a big intro because my guest today, Sulo King from San Diego, a music producer, a musician, a music promoter for a long time, overall entrepreneur, and just a really badass that I've known for a long time. I had the chance to actually speak to him, catch up with him about the state of music in general, and also how to really survive and thrive as a musician, and the importance of really not just putting all your eggs in one basket and being diverse in your talents, in your actions, and your endeavors in general. So, with no further ado, let's welcome Sulo King. Hello, Sulo. How are you doing today? It is such a pleasure to have you. We met a long time ago and we've been kind of seeing each other on Facebook here and there, but it's been a long time since we actually connected and spoke. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's an absolute pleasure to be invited to come on the show today. We have such a long history together. Um, I think the last time I actually saw you was at the NAM show, and that had to have been sometime in the 2000s at least. Yeah. I mean, what time? Sorry, what year did you move out of LA?
I moved out in 2021. 2021.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and I stopped going up to LA. I feel like it lost its flair maybe 15 years ago. Yeah. And the last time I went up there actually was I used to love hanging out the Rainbow because I had the
Oh,
greatest
same.
connection with the Roxy, Nick Adler and my buddy Ryan that was like Nick's best friend and was managing the place. He would always take care of me every time I would go up there, so it always felt like home. And I'd always jokingly call it, the brick by brick of LA for me. And Rainbow, I had the connection through actually Brick by Brick. Christy Schultz, who's still there, bar manager. She used to bartend at Brick by Brick and left to move up to LA about a year and a half before I started there.
Mm.
She's a few years older than me. And that's how, I had that natural connection. I just felt like this is like my hub. And in the 2000s, I go up there almost every single weekend with my buddies. I was managing artists at the time. I was really in my prime. I was the youngest talent buyer in San Diego. I got the job running Brick by Brick when I was just 22 years old, which was unheard of at the time for a venue like that. There's a big difference between running a venue and just being an independent promoter. But back in those days, even the flyer guys handing out flyers were calling themselves promoters. So that term was used pretty loosely, but it was always a dream of mine to work in LA and getting invited to come up to the Roxy, this prestigious club that I've always looked up to, and be a guest personally of Nick Adler's was like a big deal for me. He was so impressed by my age, and he loved Brick by Brick because he had brought Snot through there back in the late 90s before my time. So he had like this mutual respect. And it was great to have that kind of relationship. Going up to it lately, like I went up there 2 years ago, the day before Super Bowl Sunday. First of all, Roxy was closed on a Saturday night,
What?
which I could not believe. I had never seen any LA venue shut down on a weekend night, prime night. And I figured there were still going to be a little remnants of the pandemic, as you like to call it. I missed the whole valet parking there. I used to always valet park there, and it was like a big deal. It was like you making a presence, making an arrival there, and they have these like picnic tables out there, and it just looked like
Wow.
out of like The Walking Dead almost in my sense. And there was some of the same faces, complete barflies from back in those days. The hang-arounds. that, thought they were cool because they smoked a cigar with Mario Magliari or something like that. You know what I mean? And I was just like so unimpressed. I was just like, it's lost its flavor. Of course, Christy was there, and excited to see me, and it was great to catch up with her. But uh, that was just a good reminder of how much things have changed since our time.
Mm,
And I'm not talking like because I'm older now or whatever. It's just how the industry has evolved. Things are the same as they used to be. I feel like we're in this era of social media, and the younger generation, they don't go to shows like we used to, these small club shows. They're all about these big festivals and these
mm,
big arena shows and stuff
mm.
like that, which is cool, but you know, things change, and music trends evolve, you know, pop culture evolves, and I'm just glad that a lot of these same institutions that are historic, like the Whiskey and the Roxy, are still there. I
Mm-hmm.
used to love going to House of Blues. That's gone.
So
Key
sad.
Club was fun. That's gone. And what's the other one? There's another iconic one up there.
The Trocadero?
Uh, that is a
Oh,
good
the
one.
Troubadour, the Troubadour.
Troubadour, yeah, yeah, Troubadour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of right
That was like
there.
near Beverly Hills, right? Like in
Yeah.
that area. Yeah, yeah.
And what about the
And the
uh
gig, there was a gig or something it was called, the gig. And the Viper Room. You're talking about the Viper Room.
Viper Room? I played there a handful of times.
Yeah.
Had some really fun experiences there. I haven't checked on that place. I remember they were saying they were gonna put up for sale or tear it down or something like that. I don't know
It's
what
so
happened there.
sad.
Yeah.
You actually beat me to it because I was going to ask you about the whole thing, how you feel like the shift in music, how it's changed and how, you know, so going circling back to in the beginning, we met because you booked us in San Diego. Oh, it was in San Diego, right? The Brick by Brick. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you contacted me personally because you were doing the booking for
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Stardom. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it was a phone call or email. I can't remember. And I booked you down there,
Yeah.
and that's when the metal scene, was
Yeah.
thriving in San Diego.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. It was
such a strong
great.
force to be reckoned with. There were so many good bands, coming out of San Diego, and I was managing. I managed probably about 3 or 4 different bands back in that day while maintaining Brick by Brick, while also going off and for 4 years doing another venue called the Jumping Turtle, which
Hmm.
at that time you could put all ages and 21 and up in the same room.
Mm,
And
nice.
before, like everything was pretty restricted. It was either 21 and up or all ages. And then eventually, like House of Blues started like, uh, roping off everything. And now, like, it's just like LA. Everything's, loose, and you have to have a wristband and whatnot in order to, get a drink at the bar. But yeah, so we met through Brick by Brick. I remember that. And then I that's around the time when I started coming up to LA a lot more. And I think I saw you guys a couple of times up in LA as well.
Yeah, that's back when they had the Rockies Awards, which I thought was so cool. It was like a tiny community in Hollywood and surrounding areas where you really felt like, everybody was kind of working together. And it was just like a nice kind of scene for a minute. And I also really admired you being so active in the scene. Not only you are also an artist, you're a musician, but you were also really business savvy right from the start. And, talking about promoters, I think a lot of promoters are not promoters. They just say promoters. They say, I booked your show. Now go hustle, sell tickets and bring a lot of people and also put on a badass show. And it always pissed me off because I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm the artist and I'm not a prima donna, but I'm also like, you do your job. I do my job. I promote, but you also it's a teamwork effort. And a lot of times it was mainly the bands having to do all the work, to ensure that somebody's there and then hardly getting anything, in return. And it's a hard business. How did you get started? How did you figure out like, you know what, I want to be a promoter?
Well, music's always had a strong impact on my life ever since I was 5 years old, seeing someone play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star show and tell in kindergarten. So I always wanted to like do something with music. So, that led to piano. My mom sacrificed taking lessons so she can get lessons for myself and my sister, who's 3 years younger than me. And she evolved into a better player. I didn't really have a huge knack for it. I wanted more, and so I picked up the guitar. My cousin Jake, who's this amazing, sound editor for feature films and video games up in LA, has had a prominent career. He was same age as me and my best friend as far as my cousins go, and he taught me how to play Iron Man, and I thought it was
Nice.
the coolest thing ever. And that just evolved into I literally stumbled into singing. The first actual performance I ever had with any kind of formation of a band was my 16th birthday. And the singer just wanted to impress a girl and wrote a love song. So he sang 3 songs, and that was his hidden agenda, and it worked. And he ran off with her, and I wrote most of the lyrics anyways, because I was always into poetry and creative writing. So I liked writing, and I just picked up a lyric book I had in front of me, and I just started singing. And I remember my friends just going crazy at the end of the first song I sang, after I put down the guitar, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." It was like throwing down like Thor's hammer and feeling the power of these Nordic gods just electrifying my entire body. And 30 years later, I haven't put the microphone down,
That's
and I'm
amazing.
still at it. And I always wanted to work in the music industry somehow, get my foot in the door. I had a few bands, my first real band was like after high school when I was like 18. So I was kind of a late bloomer. There was this Club Soma, all ages venue here in San Diego. That's still around. Its third incarnation of it, which influenced me. And this is what really planted that seed. And it's an interesting story because it came full circle because I just ran into the owner of that club that still owns it to this
Hmm.
day. Started in 1988 or 89.
Oh, wow.
Um, he's as old as my mom now, and he's still doing it. And that just goes to show you,
That's
music keeps
cool.
you youthful.
Yes.
And I saw kids in bands not only opening up for their heroes, but throwing their own shows and, booking the venue shows. And I was like, I want every aspect of this. And it took me until I was 20 to finally get my foot in the door somewhere. I got a job at a venue called Kane's Bar and Grill. It was on the boardwalk, which was a very interesting setting for a venue. I mean, the beach was, a stone throw away. And MTV Beach House was built the year 2000. And I started in May of 2000. I went to go see this band called Kitty. And I found that, you remember the listening stations at Tower Records?
The band Kitty? That
Yeah, yeah, the old
yeah.
female metal band
Yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I had found them at a listening station at Tower
I
Records.
love these listening stations. They were amazing.
There was one right down at Tower Records, right down the street from where I live now.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
I miss the era of stores
Yes.
like that. These small
Yes.
little record stores just don't have that same aesthetic and feel that they used to anymore. I mean, it's cool that they're still around, but the listening stations were amazing.
Gold. Yeah.
Anyway, so I discovered this band Kitty. I start going online, and digging around. I was like, wow, they're only like teenagers. I was like, this is amazing. I was like, I really hope they come through San Diego. And then shortly after that time, a few months later, I see an advertisement in our weekly paper, the San Diego Reader, that they're coming and playing at Cane's, and it's an all ages show. And I was like, all right, this is awesome. So I go down there, and I didn't really know anybody. I was a little nervous going down to newer venue that I'd never been to, not knowing anyone that's going to the show. I ended up talking to a bouncer outside, and I didn't really care for the opening acts. It was just funny because one of them was Disturbed.
Oh my God. What? They opened for Kitty?
Yeah, yeah, that
That's
show.
crazy.
Yeah, and the next thing, I believe it was Disturbed. And the next thing you know, this bouncer's like, hey, you seem like a really cool kid and you seem to really love music. After rapping out with him for like, 20, 30 minutes, he's like, I just turned 21 and they're moving me inside. And I used to have to see this golf cart right here. I used to drive this golf cart in the parking lot as a security guard. You only have to be 18 to do this job. He's like, how old are you? I was like 20. He's all perfect. He's, I'll tell you what, I'll go up and get you a job right now if you're interested. And I was like, no way. And sure enough, I watched him walk up to somebody, talk to him real quick. It was this security manager. Comes back. He's like, come back on Wednesday, fill out paperwork. And I was like, just like that. He's like,
That's
dude,
badass.
anyone can do this job. And I came back on Wednesday, and they had me start like I think a few days later on
So
like
awesome.
Friday night, and it was the time of my life. Like I said, you had the MTV Beach House, which is right around the corner, which is now like Soundwave, a music venue, and they have like a standing wave there and everything that you could surf and everything. And I met so many people. I got to meet all my heroes. I got to meet like Chino from the Deftones and work with all these different artists and see all it. I mean, like Snoop Dogg played there as a secret show, like all these rad things. I worked there for 2 years. And during that time, uh, I met a sound engineer who went on to become my mentor. And his story is tragic, what happened to him. I'll get to that later. But I ended up meeting him. I got volunteered to give him a ride one night to another smaller bar venue. He had to go fill in for somebody. Like after our show was done at like 11 or whatever. And he took me under his wing. He's like, saw that I
That's
was in a
awesome.
band. I was in a metal band at the time, and took me under his wing and saw that I wanted to be a promoter. I For my first independent show. What one is it? It was Halloween 2000. I was 20 years old,
Okay.
and it ended up getting shut down. This guy tried to turn he had owned a restaurant up top and tried to turn his basement into a music venue, and we were way too loud, and his customers were complaining. We literally finished building the stage like right before the
Ah,
venue opened, and yeah, we got shut down. Anyway, it was unfortunate circumstance. It was a good learning lesson. Um, then fast forward, I met this guy Vinny, who became my mentor, the sound guy, and he saw that Kings wasn't giving me the opportunity to throw any shows there. They were really strict about like who they work with, and you have to do room rentals, and it was had more of a corporate attitude than anything. He's like, I got this other venue. He's I'm gonna bring you over to this place brick by brick, and this is when I was 21 at that time,
oh, okay.
and he's like, they need someone like you with a fresh young mind and a great ear. And I met the owner, Max Paul. By the time I was 22, like a year later, I was running the place. I went from security guard to bar backing to throwing a few shows here and there. Then the guy that was booking at the time didn't show up for like 2 weeks because he went through a bad breakup or whatever. And the rest is all history. And that's how I met you. And then, one thing about me, I always had this fearless mindset and attitude. I'll go talk to anybody, and that's what really made my mark. And I never had an issue with, telling people how I felt, putting my foot down. And in the LA environment, as you know, you really gotta
Oh yeah.
be assertive
It's
and
very.
stick to your guns, or you're gonna get taken advantage of,
Mm-hmm.
especially by the pay to play promoters.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when the pay to play promoters started to come down the brick by brick. The only one I ever respected and liked was Sean Healy.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
work with them. We work with
yeah,
them.
he, I didn't believe in the ideology of making bands pay to play. I thought that was such a greedy concept, and I still do, and I always will feel that way. I would make or give bands pre-sale tickets, and I give them a cut of it. I'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
look, we're going to do an even split, 50-50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you sell, X amount, I'll give you even a higher percentage. I would take care of the bands. And the thing that made things work for me is they liked the fact that I was one of them. a
Yeah.
musician that would actually hang out with them and be present at the shows and communicate with them, and not just like try to take the money and run, and or make as much as I can, have this arrogant attitude. That was never
Yeah.
me.
It's so shady. I When we came from New York to LA, I was just shocked. I was like, "What? You have to like pay to play?" And then, and they make it sound like, you're gonna get like 100 tickets and you only have to sell 50 and the rest is all yours, all profit." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I have to know people. I'm not I didn't grow up here, so it's really hard if you don't. Also, you can't unless you build a fan base, it's really hard to bring that many people in. You can't rely on your friends and other bands all the time because you have your own rehearsal to do and your own shows to do. And so, yeah, I did not like that concept. I do understand the business sense. Obviously, everybody has to make money and there has to be a full room. But like I said earlier, like promoters, I feel got really lazy, and just wanted to make the bands do all the work. And I think that you were also really smart. You knew what you wanted to do, proximity, right? And you put yourself in places surrounded by people that would give you opportunity, seeing your passion, seeing your talent, seeing your dedication to music. That's how it works. Let's be honest here. This business is really fucking hard and it's also a very corrupt business. And unless you really are very passionate about it, it's really hard to stay with this. From what I've seen, you don't have all your eggs in one basket. You're really smart about, building other businesses. You're also a health wellness coach. You've had studios that you rented out, I think, right? Like a while back, or you still
Yeah,
maybe
so
do.
yeah, I owned and
Tell us
operated
about that. Yeah.
a recording rehearsal studio.
Very smart.
So it's interesting, like I always thought I would work in the music industry my entire life. The pandemic had other plans for me. Talk about pandemic, right? I only left Brick by Brick because the economy had crashed and we went into a full recession and I got laid off. I remember, it was a very sad time. The owner of Brick by Brick even had a tear running down his face when he had to lay me off. And I still stayed there for 6 months until I figured out, another job and what I was going to do. And
Yeah.
then during that transitionary period, my guitar player for Authentic Sellout had a pawn shop that he became a part owner of, that he was like a lifer at, that, he'd been working for a decade or whatever. He offered me a job there. And, first it was just sweeping up the floor. Then I started working as an actual pawnbroker with him. And I found a whole sense of humility working there. I saw other musicians coming through their doors, having to pawn their prized instruments and
Mm,
equipment and whatnot. And I took care of them. Every single musician that came through there. As long as you were cool with me, I was gonna hook you up. And
yeah.
there were a few times where some notable musicians here in San Diego, I don't want to mention anyone, but you know, were late on coming in, to pick up their or pay their extension or whatever, and I'd still take care of them. But
Yeah.
during that time, it inspired me to do something new. It's interesting when you're not relevant, every connection you have when you go from being on top to the bottom starts going away, and you see who your real friends are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There are a few LA contacts that I'm still, friendly with today, or friends with, because I'd always try to, be friendly and make friends with who I do business with, as long as I really, respected and liked you and work well together. It really bummed me out, you know what I mean? And one day, my friend and I were hanging out. He was about to graduate. He had like another year left in audio school. He was studying to become a recording engineer,
Hmm.
and he was going to California Arts Institute or something like
Mm.
that.
Not sure.
That school closed down the same year we closed our studio down, or like the year before or whatever, because they got caught embezzling money. It was a very sad state of affairs. I feel bad for all the people that never got to graduate, get their degrees from that school. He all of a sudden is just like, I see how depressed you are and how bummed you are, and you really miss working in the music industry. He's like, I got an idea. How about we open up a recording studio? I was like, rather than me just going and working at one or freelancing, let's do our own. I was like, no one's done anything like this. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, listen, hear me out. He's you could be the booking agent. You could take all those same principles that you had as a booking agent, being, you were even a booking agent for my band, and you could do that and run the day-to-day operations of the studio while I'm in charge of the actual recording studio, hiring the engineers and whatnot. But you could even manage them. And I was like, I love that idea. So we shopped around and looked at a few other studios for about a year and a half. Finally found one. He got wind through his school, actually, that there was one that was up for sale. And I happened to know the musician, and he really trusted our vision of what we wanted to do and gave us a very, very gracious deal. Frank and I, we had that studio up until 2019. The only reason we got rid of it is because the building got sold in 2018, and we wrote out the last of our lease, and the owner wanted to do something different. Now it's like a livable Art Deco workspace or something like that. I mean, you can't even see in the property anymore, so I have no idea, what its end game looked like. But it's just like everything, things change, nothing lasts forever, and I'm glad I did that for 7 long years, and then uh, less than 6 months after we closed October 1st, 2019. We go into this full pandemic in March, and I had also owned and operated a valet parking business. I had opened up the year after I had my studio as a secondary option to, make a source of income. Actually, an idea my mother and I came up with. I get a lot of my business sense, most of my business sense from my mother, because she is an entrepreneur, and she had just opened up a holistic and integrative medical clinic called Pacific Pearl La Jolla.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so she came up with the idea. She said, "We need someone to valet rather than hiring a company. Why don't we just have you start up, a small business? What do you think?" At first, I was kind of like, I don't know, parking cars. And
It's all
then,
cash though. It's a cash business. That's a
yeah,
good, you're
yeah, and I
smart.
thought about that, and I was like, all right. So my whole thing with that is, hey, you know what? I'm going to start up this business. I secret shopped around. There was only a handful of other smaller, companies that will work events and whatnot, and got a fair idea, of what it would take to really, price these people and undercut them a little bit. It's funny too, because I was like, oh, I own a recording studio. I want to do a party with valet parking. That's how I came up with that idea. In fact, one year I even had my guys work at one of the parties I had in my studio. So it was kind of funny, But anyways, that was like service with a smile and at an affordable price, and we got a lot of compliments along the way, and that was great. And just as I'm starting to you know, elevate that business again, because that's all I had left, everything goes away. And my other guitar player in Authentic Sellout, he had just become an independent fitness coach, and he's like, I got an idea. I want to do online training. And this is before it became so overpopularized
Yeah.
during COVID. He approached me with an app idea and said, hey, do you want to, help me develop something? You have this entrepreneurial brain, and I think you'd be a good test subject too, to see if you how you feel about, me developing your workouts. And I just put them all on an app for you. And then you go in the gym and do it yourself. And I check in with you like once, twice a week. So I did that, and I had really good results. And I said, hey, let's go back to the drawing board here, and let's start designing something. And um, you know, we realized that you need about 6 figures, maybe a high five, to really get something off the ground. After we spoke to a couple, app developers, web developers here in San Diego, and he couldn't come up with any substantial money on his end. When I was, had access to it, so I said, you know what? At that time, I wanted to learn more about like fitness and nutrition. So I had already signed up with NASM to get some certifications, because I said I really want to get behind this product.
Mm-hmm.
And that when that whole app idea fell apart, it gave me the idea to asked the gym I was a member at, because that was like all I really had as my savior, one last savior and hope, to find something to get through all this stress, because I couldn't really play music. The band was starting to crumble because of COVID. And they said, hey, if you just go and get these certs through NASM, we'll hire you. And that was something I had already, thought of doing to begin with. So I started doing that. Long story short, I had a dinner with my mother one night and was telling her what I was up to. And she said, hey, uh, we could really use a health coach at my clinic. She owns and operates, Pacific Pro La Jolla, like I was mentioning, which is a holistic and integrative medical clinic. Um, 2 blocks from the beach, beautiful location. I didn't bat an eye. I was desperate too at the time. I couldn't even drive Lyft anymore as a secondary option,
Mm.
or third option, whatever. That was like the last tier of I need to make quick cash.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And that ended up, almost 6 years later, I'm going on my 6th year, blossoming into a great career, which I love. And she said something very impactful at the time when I was down in the dumps. So I had never lost every source of income before. And luckily I was in a relationship that time. So I had that, but even that was starting to become shaky. And we ended up breaking up the following year. Um, Luckily it was, mutually. But yeah, so she offered me this position, and I was scared. I thought, hey, I worked in the music industry for 20 years. How am I going to do this? I don't want to make this my full career. She goes, look, you can still play music and moonlight as a musician in your free time, and you'll have an office. And she's like, if you have some downtime and it's a slow day, because we're not like a hospital, we're not just like, you know, patient after patient after patient, you could focus on, what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or your other endeavors. And during COVID, I actually started up my drummer came up with the idea to start a toy drive for underprivileged kids.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so awesome.
at first, it was to help out families that had lost, their source of income, their jobs. Uh, so we raised up money and would actually go out and buy toys, like, like we were Toys R Us kids, film our adventures, make it very personalized, and it's still going to this day. My drummer's no longer in the band, and is too busy with his personal life to really help out much. Um, but it's something that I've figured out how to do pretty much independently on my own. I do a GoFundMe, I do an event to create, awareness and raise money, and then I go out and buy toys, and then we still work at the same church where we donate all the toys to. And yeah, it's a very gratifying feeling, uh, combining the two things together.
I
And
so
I
love that.
love giving out the toys to the kids. I don't just hand them a toy; I let them pick out whatever they want. We
Oh,
have,
that is so nice.
yeah, all set up on an auditorium stage, and they come in and line up in different groups, and then they get a, go up in like small little groups, and pick out what they want. Because the first year we did it, we just say, hey, go here. How about this? How about that? And I saw all the disappointed looks on kids' faces. They didn't want this and that. And I just bellowed out. I was like, you know what? I got a new idea. Everyone pay attention for a second. I was like, to give the kids what they really want, I'm going to let them from now on just pick out what they want. And I've stuck to that. And the church really loved that idea. And, if you go on my YouTube channel, my own personal one, or Authentic Sellouts, there's some videos that we filmed, because that was one thing during COVID. We couldn't play shows, and live stream shows just those were like a joke to me. I was like,
Mm,
we're not like some hokey, online band. And we did one, and the equipment like failed during it when we were doing
yeah, it's so tricky.
performance. Yeah. So we started a vlog series called Sellout TV, and we did that for about, 10, 11 episodes. And I carried it on for a while. And, like a lot of things, you eventually go on to different projects. I mean, for example, I even occasionally host my own podcast show called the King's Couch podcast show.
I love that.
Uh, which I'll have to return the favor and have you on sometime
Yes, absolutely.
so we could
Absolutely.
tell your story because you got a very interesting story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I just love the way, first of all, thank you for being such a beautiful soul and giving, such a giving soul. And also sharing that as a musician, sometimes I feel, we feel, oh, I just want to make music. And if I don't make music, then I'm not a true musician. But shit happens. And music is not always rewarding. It is rewarding in the sense that, yes, it fulfills us, but financially, sometimes it doesn't quite work out the way we want it to work out. And I mean, even famous artists, like you said, they would show up at the pawn shop and had to sell shit because they wouldn't, even sign bands that are famous. Sometimes they don't have money, because they have to like pay back all the big advances that the label just blew on shit that was not, they didn't need to blow it on. But so I love that. And also I think that being in the wellness field, because I am so into holistic health, and especially, I feel like once you get really aware of what's in our foods and how stress affects us, and as a musician, of course, stress is very, it's there, when you tour or when you're trying to pitch your music. And I mean, I think we are actually a little bit harder because we are used to rejection, right? Like when I used to write for film and TV, like someone saying I don't need the music or not getting back to me, it's I'm not offended. It's just a
Right.
business. We, I think, have a thicker skin to begin with, but going outside of music is not a bad thing. It's actually smart of you to do that, to just, find different ways and then always come back to your source, like, which is, music. Is the band still going? And what are you guys, if yes, what are you guys doing? What's the plans for this year?
So it's interesting, the whole history of Authentic Sellout. When I started the band in 2006, I didn't want to be in a band. I was so turned off from that idea, from working with musicians. And around that time, I got fired from managing a band because the singer was so jealous of like all the attention I was getting. And he's like, you work for us, or in the studio, especially when I was trying to, I put him in the studio. And when I'm producing you on my dime, like, and you can't take a constructive criticism.
Oh,
That didn't fly well with me. And he's like, "Who do
ego.
you think? Do you think you're a better singer than me?" I mean, the guy are,
Yeah.
we're tight to this day. I mean, that was back then, and life was a lot different. But that was the final straw for me, and I was just like, you know what, I don't want to do this. And I had been kicked out of the last band I was in. Creative differences, same thing. Like wanting to, why do you get all the attention? And I
Because you're the king.
it because I'm the king. It was mind blowing because I tell people, I was like, if you just pay attention a little bit and stop trying to sit there getting fucked up at the bar outside on the patio smoking cigarettes or trying to pick up chicks and actually sit and talk to some of these people that I'm trying to introduce you to, then maybe you could start getting ahead.
Yeah.
Every manager I tried to even bring in for Authentic Salad, for example, one guy pulled me aside. He's like, "See, Sulo, I got to be honest with you. Like, I can't keep up with you. I can't even get close to you. There's nothing I can bring to the table that you can't already do for
Yeah.
yourself." And I was very DIY with that. I started playing punk rock, and punk rock, when I was a teenager, is the type of music that resonated with me and actually made sense to me because I felt like lost. I my best friend to this day, Andy Erbst. We were in two different bands together, and the last band we were in before I quit that one, well, he had this song that was kind of punky sounding. It was like punk metalish, and he thought I made a really good punk front band. So for like 6 months before Authentic Sellout started, he was like bugging me almost every day. Let's do a band. Let's do a band because he didn't really have too much going on with his. He couldn't lead it the way I could lead a band. And I think that was also part of it. I could take these shots. So the opportunity came around. I was doing a dual birthday party with who ended up becoming my future business partner, Frank Torres. he was also kind of pushing my buttons. He's all, "Oh, we're doing an all, 80s cover set, one night only deal. Don't wish you were in a band on your birthday party." And I was like, "Oh my God." And it started reminding me of when I was 16, right? Because that was like the 10-year marker. I was just like, huh. And then I secretly went and started a band, started rehearsing with a group of friends, a couple former bandmates, and grabbed a guitar player. I had managed one of his bands. When the time came around to start up, or advertise the name, start the promotion for the event, I needed to come up with a witty band name, and word had already started spreading around. I don't know how it really leaked out that few friends I told have big mouths, I guess, that I was going to do a band again. People were just talking shit already. They're like, "Oh, this and that," and then someone had said, "Oh, this person's calling you a sellout." And sellout?
That's
Why?
awesome.
He's all, because you already work in the industry and there's gonna be favoritism. And I was like, oh dear
Oh
God.
God.
But that name resonated with me. I was like, I like that. I had already, been a victim of cease and desist in bands. I was very cautious, and I looked around and made sure that if I was going to pick a name, it was something that wasn't already trademarked and that I couldn't get in trouble with. Every rendition that I could come up with the word sellout in it had been taken. And then 6 Google pages later, literally 6 pages later, I stumble across an old Angel Fire website that was still up and active from 1996. And
Okay.
it was called the Punk Band Name Generator. And it was like a little slot machine. You
Yeah, yeah.
enter a keyword and it would cycle these different names. And it was so old and prehistoric that it only give you like maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 options, that word or whatever. And they were all stupid. But when it put the words authentic and sellout together, it
Fucking
was like
love that.
it was like the same feeling when I first sang for the first time. You know what I mean? I felt that electricity. I was like, oh my God, that's like an oxymoron. And I've even had like, a couple like, really renowned musicians, that we've opened up for, come up to us and be like, that name is amazing. That is like the most rock and roll name that you can come up with. It's perfect. And we started out doing just one gig, and that was always supposed to be just a birthday show. I didn't want to do it like full time. Well, my friends started singing the hooks to the original songs that we have thrown in our set, because we did it was a total joke. I did a 5 song set. It was like 15 minutes long. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
I was just like, so I just wanted to entertain my friends like a stand-up comedian going up there and doing a skit. You know what I mean? It was so catchy, it got stuck in their heads, and they're like, "When's the next gig?" And the band members were around me. They're like, "Yeah, let's do another gig." I was like, "Oh God, here it goes." Year later, I fell in love with it and not had a band of my own since probably 1998. And we started getting all these big gigs, and it got to the point where I just never wanted to let it fade. And this year, the band turns 20 years old.
fuck yeah.
Been doing a lot of, thinking like, how can I make it memorable? How can I make it special? Do I make some commemorative merch? Do we do a big show? Like, I really want to give back to everybody that's, been supportive along the way, and just show like the community in the industry that I'm not
Mm,
in this to be a cool guy. I'm not in this to make a ton of money, because as a musician, like, you might as well get work for less than minimum less than minimum wage. I
yeah,
can't even
go to
speak without
I know you
laughing.
can't even say it. That's how disgusting it is.
Yeah, and that's
MW.
why I was tell my friends, don't quit your day job, and that's why I had a job in the industry, and I even dropped out of college to run Brick by Brick when I got that opportunity.
Smart move.
And ironically, I was studying recording arts, and then 10 years later, I ended up like opening up my own studio and doing all that. And it's been such a fun ride between working in the industry, I'm glad I still have Authentic Sellout, to reflect on. I only have like one core member that's been by my side for like the last 12 years, and he's a younger kid, little hotshot guitar virtuoso. He's 34 now, but he was like barely 21 or 22 when he joined the band, and it reminded me so much of myself that I saw in him, except I didn't knock up my girlfriend, at a young but the struggles and to the point of where he's at in his life now, two kids, you
Oh
know,
wow,
uh,
yeah,
he's not officially married yet, but he calls his fiance his wife because they've been together forever and they have two kids, and still by my side, and we're still at it. In fact, I was just communicating with him this morning in the band text, and we want to get back in the studio and
nice.
record some new music because we haven't put out anything in this is 2021. We wrote a theme song for a short-lived professional soccer team here in San Diego called SD Loyal. We did nothing with that song, and now I'm trying to really motivate the guys and put our efforts into getting back out there and in the studio and putting some new material in our set because as a musician, I'm sure you can relate. Like you get burned out doing the same
Oh yeah.
set over and over again, no matter how many configurations you put together in your entire catalog. You get 30 songs that still get sick of cycling through them. You want new
Well, and
stuff.
some songs don't resonate. Like I know that there was a handful of songs we never played live. Like we tried it a few times. I'm like, nah, that's not gonna work live. It just something didn't click. So we're like,
Right.
nah, those songs, or like a song that we've played forever, and then we're like, no, let's just let that drop. And then I also had nightmares when we first. I don't know if that was when we played Brick by Brick, but I used to use Stage Blood and I had
Oh, yeah.
nightmares about letting that go. That was a certain song where I would do all that. And I'm like, it's time to change it up. And sometimes it's hard to let things go that you think it's your spiel kind of thing. No, Artist Daughter, we played a show last year, which was, and I'm sure it's the same as you. I love that because it's so magical and it's just Jim and me. Everybody else is kind of like a newer member or like, they just fill in. But it feels like we never stopped, which is kind of awesome.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Was it
And
all the original guys or
no, it was just Jim and me because everybody
uh,
else is like spread out. Our drummer, I don't even know where he is now, but my bass player, Roman, he has like a lot of family stuff going on and he's back in North Carolina and he kind of quit music. It's so sad to me to see so many talented musicians wrap it up and say, I can't do this anymore. I just don't have the energy. And a lot of musicians, sadly, that's why I think health is so important to focus on because they
100%?
suffer from, depression and, so sorry me because I'm a goth band or like, it's like, no, you can be fucking happy and still make dark music. And I mean, I will say that for the longest time, I never wanted to meet my fans because I always felt like they're not gonna like me because I'm not who I am on stage is not who I am off stage. I'm totally two different people, and
Right.
I'm like kind of almost boring, like because I'm just normal. Yeah, I don't think I'm normal, but I'm not like ah, on stage I'm like trashing shit and like crazy, but off stage I'm like actually, you can talk to me. I'm like a pretty level person for the most part, but
Right. I always thought you were entertaining, I was just like, she's definitely not who she is on stage. But my mindset was also a lot different because of all the musicians I would work with and see that, like one of the most valuable lessons that I learned early on was that it's all theatrics. It's all a gimmick. It's all a show. Very rarely would I come across anyone that was, so egotistical and trying to like be like some kind of method actor and stay in character, and be like, oh,
right.
that was kind of weird.
Well,
Where
and you don't you think like I feel of course it's me on stage, right? Like it's not an act actually, it's me, but it's like a certain part of you that comes out when you're on that stage because you are really bringing out that artist in you. Obviously, like you said, you don't want to walk around like, hey, I'm Jacqueline from Artist Daughter, fuck you, like or whatever. Like it's not it's a different you in that zone, and it's just so awesome to it just feels like I feel like the stage is my home, and I actually am sometimes sad that I'm not spending as much time on my in my home, where I feel really alive. I want to say one more thing about you and having a lot of conflict with people, because you're so down to earth and you're a really good business person and you're a really confident person. And a lot of musicians are so ego driven. It's all about their ego, like how I look and I
100%.
want to be right and I'm the best and blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly someone like you comes along and also you have presence because you're also tall, So I can see how people get very intimidated by you and their only defense is to just say, I don't like you, or like, oh, you're trying to take over, you think you're more important than me and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh my God, like check your ego at the door. Not really their fault. It's just how they, that time where they feel, oh, I'm important. I matter, when in reality, you do matter. Everybody matters. But,
I
you
never
know,
had that kind of attitude. I mean,
no,
I
you
was
don't.
very serious, so some people already thought I was kind of an asshole without even getting to know me. Um, I remember one time one of my friends, because it would, we're all sensitive.
Of
No
course.
matter what anyone says, we all have feelings. We're all sensitive. Some people just mask their feelings better than others. It would hurt my feelings when I find out that people would run their mouths about me because all I was trying to do is do good,
Yeah.
is be that ally and be one of them and give people opportunities. And I have so many interesting stories about how impactful I was, to certain musicians. One of the most humble moments I ever had working at Brick by Brick or just in the industry was this kid came in and picked up some pre-sale tickets, and it was his first gig there. And he was like 21 and so like nervous and excited. He started asking me questions and like repeating things about me. He's like, oh, you manage this band or manage that band. I was like, how do you know all this? Like, I read your Facebook bio. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I didn't realize, people really read those. I just gotta put it out there, and I was just like really seeing myself in that kid. I was a 21-year-old kid wanting, to be where I was. And in that time and moment, I was maybe like 24. I wasn't that much older. And it made me realize, like, you know what? I never want to like change. Like I'm inspiring this kid to look up to me as a role model, and that's how I always want to be in this industry. This clicky, egotistical driven industry where people are so two-faced and can't even have the courage and the balls to stand up for themselves and call you out to your face. You know how many times
Exactly.
that people have talked shit to me on social media. I don't know if they were drunk or what when they're sitting there DMing me or, in the comments on Facebook or whatever back in those days, or MySpace. And then, I see them in the club and they act like nothing happened and they're kissing my ass. And you can even tell how fake they're fucking being. And I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
like, is this fucking guy for real right now? Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. You know
Or
what I
they
mean?
act like they're your friend on social media, and then you see them in the club, and they don't even talk to you. They don't even look at you. They act like they don't know you. It's like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm like, hey, what's up? And they're just like, huh, these emo guys that were like all like, being rock stars or thinking they're rock stars. I hated that so much. I was like, oh my God, get over yourself. Like, you're not that special. Sorry,
I know LA was full of that, especially at the
Ugh.
rainbow, you know.
Yes, yes. Ugh.
And I when
Tell us tell us your LA story before we
oh
forget.
my God, I
Your
got so
funny
many LA
LA story.
stories.
But you said you have like one funny LA story like that. I
Well, it's oh, the first time I went up to LA, that's right.
Yes,
Oh man, so this ties into the band Kitty, right? I fell in love with that band. I was just like, wow, this is
they were
amazing.
badass.
They're fucking badass. I've never seen a metal band like this. L7 was like the closest thing to
Yeah.
like, a kick-ass in your face, all female band or Lunatics for punk rock. And me and my buddy and this degenerate kid that I knew, Mike, had like barely any money to his name. I mean, he came from like, broke upbringing, in East County, San Diego, with the shitty part of we call it the armpit of San Diego, you know, El Cajon. I had this old pickup truck. It was like a 1995 pickup truck, stick shift. I hated that truck. I don't even know why I got it. I just wanted a truck, and it was the only thing I could afford in that the price bracket was at. So we drove it up to LA. We saw that Kitty was playing at the Whiskey Go Go. I had never been to an LA venue on the Sunset Strip or a show independently on my own, so it was a big deal. And we were excited to get there. I parked right around the corner up the street from the Whiskey, and I did not realize that it was all permit parking and that your car could get towed, right? So
Oh,
I go to the show at the time of my life. I had met the Kitty Girls, before. I think they had come through, because I was already working at Cane's. They had come through there, and I still have actually a picture on my wall over there. You can't really see it in the
no.
background. Uh, Here, I'll show you real quick.
Yes, please.
So I was 20. So this is Fallon Bowman, who was the
Oh, nice. Yes.
originally in the band back then, and she's in this picture. She's holding my demo tape
Oh, that's
from.
badass.
I wasn't even in that band anymore, but I just wanted to like show off and give her something cool, like musician too, because I was like trying to figure out what I was gonna do, musically. We had the time of our life hanging out with them, and then the next thing you know, we go back to the car, ready to drive back to San Diego, late at night. Truck's gone. I'm freaking. I was
Oh
like, oh
my
shit, did
God.
my truck get stolen? I was like, did I park here? I was like, what happened? Then I look at the sign and I'm like, it's like dun dun dun. I felt like I was in a TV show or something. I was like, oh my God, no.
Fuck.
So we walk back down to the venue, and there was another kid there. Same shit had happened, and his father was coming to pick him up. I had a cell phone at the time, so I was able to figure out what tow yard our cars were in. The kid asked his dad. He's all, can you give these guys a ride? The same thing happened. Their car got towed too, and we get dropped off. He gets his car. I find out, and I never had to, I didn't know how much tow fees were. I'd never dealt with it before. I didn't realize it was going to be so expensive. It was like 300 something dollars,
Oh my God.
something crazy like that. I didn't have that much money. You know what I mean? I mean, I was making 750 an hour working, only at night. You know what I mean? So my paychecks weren't that much. My buddy, he didn't have two nickels to his name. So our only option at that point was to, call our parents. But it was like 1:30 in the morning. I was like, I'm gonna get my ass handed to me. So there was nothing that we could do anyways, because back in those days there's no Venmo, there was no Cash App, there was no
Yeah.
PayPal.
Right.
You
Or
know,
Zella, anything like that. Yeah. Shit.
luckily there was a Western Union right on the corner. And they're like, you can get a Western Union and have the money sent that way. So we had to sleep on the street, which was a really, really crazy experience.
Oh my God.
This is like Eastern LA, you know what I mean? East LA. And we got had the cops coming and like shining a light on us because we were peeking our head over there because there was like a Nickelodeon production studio next to the tow yard. I mean, it was kind of like a weird area of LA. I think a hooker solicited himself to me. It was is a tranny.
You're like,
Just
I got no money, yo.
I was like, thank God I have no money. I can do you off. Uh, he was nice though, but it was a crazy experience. That I called my dad because he would be like a lot more lenient in that sense. You know what I mean? Than calling my mother, and got the money, and we were able to get out of there, safely. But yeah, that was my first LA
Oh
experience.
man, what a bad experience. We got told once too, I remember that, and we had to drive like you, like somewhere all the way out, butt fuck wherever. And it was not $300, it was like 175 or something, but it was like such a pain in the ass to get there. I remember that. And oh
I don't know if it was 300, but back then it was a lot more money than
yeah,
it.
yeah. Oh, but it's just so fuck, yeah. And LA, you have to be so careful with the parking anyway. Wow, man. So how do you feel now that, you were saying mentioning LA is not the same anymore, and I'm kind of glad. It's weird. I don't really miss it. I miss like the hiking spots. The nature was really beautiful, but and you mentioned earlier the Roxy. That was like one of my favorite venues because they had the curtain and everything. It was like so
Oh,
legit. I love that. And the size was also just like perfect actually. Not too big, not too small. And if you have the right bands, you could really put on a really badass show. But the state of music, don't you think that I feel because of social media, because of AI, and I'm really loving that AI music is getting a lot of like backslash, like that, there's so much people getting in so much trouble now because it's just, thank God, it's not really working out, right? Because the copyright and it's like it gets so fucking complicated and weird and big labels fighting it, but fuck the big guys. As independent artists, don't you think that I really feel live music is becoming so valuable now because people crave real shit. People are
yeah.
so sick and tired of seeing the fake ass bullshit they see on social media and everything is shiny and polished and overproduced and just, I mean, I don't even know anymore. Even when I go on YouTube and I'm like, is this like a real person? Is this actually really the artist talking or is this just an AI video? Do you think that we are going back to a phase where, and you would probably be the right person to do this, like to just do warehouse shows. Fuck the clubs, you know what I mean? Like fuck the like pay to play bullshit and just like make these big ass parties where people come, maybe 5, 10 bands, badass bands that all work together and just throw a party, like a real
I
in
would love to
person.
see something like that. You know,
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I've seen anybody do that. Like
I
we're in
would love to do that.
such a weird era right now. Like I don't feel like I feel like certain kids are trying to start bands still, but it's not the same as it used to because they're all rock school trained now, a lot of them, and
Mm,
they're all trying to replicate their heroes rather than have this originality and just I want to play rock and roll and come up with their own unique sound. And then you have others that are starting these badass bands, but you have a lot of kids that are so glued to social media. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And these influencers and whatnot, and looking up to these falsified gods and icons, and those are like the Jake Pauls of the world. They're like the new rock stars now, and it's this really sad state of affairs. So I try to really be an advocate to people to be more organic. We have a song called Technology that is all about staying off your phone. It was
Love
written
that.
when I was inspired by an actual incident. We were opening up for Dead Kennedys, sold out show. This kid in the
Nice.
front row was glued to his phone, and I'm singing down to him, and he didn't even know I was there. And I was like inches away from his face. And finally, I went bam on the back shoulder, and he was so stunned. He's like, "Oh!" And he was like, thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And I'm sitting there like so pissed off by this. I start walking around afterwards, noticing everyone's on their phones and not engaged, even when Dead Kennedys are on stage. And I'm just like, the hell just happened here? And
That is just fucking weird, man. It's like,
yeah,
ugh.
I got with my bandmate Andy, who's like my core songwriter of the band. He still helps us out a little bit now, but he retired about I don't know 2 or 3 years ago. He moved up to Northern California. And anyways, we wrote the song called Technology, and it's just all about how technology is just rotting our brains away,
Yeah.
and it touches on war and AI and social media and Our album cover, we had this guy Jimbo Phillips from Santa Cruz Skateboards. His dad's the guy that created the talking hand insignia, screaming hand,
Mm,
and he nailed our artwork. And it's just like this guy holding a cell phone and his head's exploding, and then it's this energy vortex in the back, like this almost like a black hole, kind of just sucking all the problems of the world that are coming basically, from this phone into this vortex. And we wrote that album in 2017, recorded it, and put it out finally in 2018. Won a San Diego Music Award. But it's
nice.
crazy seeing how relevant that album cover is.
No, yeah.
The material that we wrote on it is today. We got to play Wasteland Weekend, which is a Mad Max theme festival out in the desert here in California,
Oh, nice.
2017. And we filmed a music video for one of the songs off that record called Radiate, which you can, view on YouTube. And that was a pretty wild and crazy experience. We were the first punk band to ever play there. And I've been gunning to play that festival since its first incarnation, which was called Road Warrior Weekend. And at that point, when we went, there was about 4,000 people there. It was
Nice.
wild. That was a crazy time. But in the video, I scripted the intro scene that we filmed separately from the festival to give it kind of a storyline where we have this vision of the future, and that's that vision. Is this Mad Max Road Warrior esque world. I was so inspired by the actual movies. Growing up, my father introduced me to Mad Max and the Road Warrior, and I wanted to really capture that in this video. And so when we play that song, still this day, I always joke around about how me and the guys have already been to the future, and we don't want to be there. So let's be careful. Look at
Yeah.
all the chaos and craziness that's happening right now in the world. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like when I saw this shirt, make America Punk again.
Yeah, I fucking love that.
This promoter, put on a punk show at the Observatory in Santa Ana in 2021 or 2022 when I got this shirt, and I thought he's all, do you want anything? And I was just like, yeah, I want the shirt. I love that statement right there. And for me, it's anti-establishment, but we're not the type of punk band that's gonna just sing songs about fuck the government. And
Yeah.
we're very descriptive, and we're very choose your own adventure, and how you can translate what we're saying without making all these completely direct references. Like we had a picture of Trump in the vortex, all this hand-drawn artwork, but we never mentioned him by name or anything like that in our songs. I was always very cautious, and I still am to this day, about creating controversy with our music. Even though I butted heads with my bandmate Andy in the past, because he's like, "Who are we?" And I was like, "Well, I like to feel like we're like these music freedom fighters that we're this band that just kind of started because we love playing music, and that's it, and that's how it's always really been." In fact, we even had a comic book idea that almost turned into a deal where we're this touring band and we fight these like Scooby-Doo mysteries and adventures. And, this evil CEO, Richard Branson type or whatever, is trying to, stop us. It was called the Rock and Roll Justice Council. And we used to have this MC. His nickname's the Wizard because he dresses real elaborately. You know what I mean? And looks like one. And he would give us our special like powers. It's kind of like taking your love for 80s, 70s and 80s Saturday morning cartoons and turning it into a comic book. And I'm very visual the way I write and create things. I imagine in my mind like I'm creating like a movie or a cartoon or something, and that's how I came up with this idea. And I have concept artwork for it too, which was really cool. And I would shop around Comic Con here in San Diego, and there was some interest in it. But just like a lot of great ideas,
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't pan out, and you put it on the shelf, and you either go back to it or you don't. And something I've been thinking about a lot lately, because now it's a lot more easier
Oh, yeah.
to put out an independent comic book. So it's something that I would like to see happen one day. You know,
Same. Yeah, I love that we have a lot of similarities. Like I have so many ideas and like, oh, I want to do a comic book and I want, a secret band that no one knows it's me, blah blah. All that kind of shit. But it's just fun because as a creative, and I don't know if you know Alex Hermosi. He's like an entrepreneur and business guy. He's partnered with school, but he always says, just because you have like a lot of good ideas doesn't mean you have to act on all of them, but it's good to
Yeah.
write them down and then revisit them. Is there a specific routine you have in your day where, obviously you're still doing music, doing vocal warm-ups, or just like keeping yourself in shape? What are some non-negotiables for you that you do daily to really stay mentally, physically fit and centered and in harmony with your
Well,
with your soul?
a lot of it's more holistic, than anything. I mean, physically, I love going to the gym and everything like that. I do need to get back to my normal routine. I had really bad plantar fasciitis in my left foot
Mm.
that was like I was struggling with for the last 6 months. So that's finally behind me. So now I can start really actively lifting weights and getting back to it. And I have an injury on my rotator cuff on my right shoulder that still acts up every once in a while. We're getting older, you know what I mean? So I can't be, the spring chicken I once was.
Keep
But
getting better.
definitely a lot of cardio. I love riding my bike. That's really good for the mind. And I have a little Bluetooth speaker, so I don't really like wearing earbuds when I ride because I want to be aware of my surroundings.
Yes, so important.
So I have like a little Bluetooth speaker that I can just kind of pause whenever I want or whatever. And I don't always use it because sometimes I just like the, breeze in my face and just the birds chirping. And there's a really nice bike path by my house. Cool, like kind of BMX looking e-bike that is foldable. I found like on Amazon that came
Oh
like
yeah, those are badass. Yeah.
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 The bike path is like right down the street, so I could ride it from my house, and it takes me all the way down to the bay. So I like to do that. I like to take my dog for a walk. I don't know if you saw me pet my dog in the
Oh yeah,
back.
I saw him. It was funny because I was trying not to laugh. Like he was scratching and then my dog was scratching himself too. So they were like in stereo, but you couldn't see mine.
I just gave her a bath, so she's a little wet still. This is the
He's
Mari.
adorable. Hi,
Uh,
baby.
she's a Wheaton Terrier poodle mix. She's a Woodle.
Yeah, so cute.
She just
Dogs
turned
rule,
3.
man. Dogs are the best.
Yeah, they are.
I
And
love
I know
my dog.
you have what, 2, right?
Yeah,
Or
I have my boyfriend's dog is like a pity, and then mine is like the cow dog, a collie mix Bolt, and he's my fucking love of my life, He's 15, so I need to make a lot of money and find the technology to keep him alive forever. Get him some
I
stem cells and fucking like
I hear that. I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about my last dog. I called her the everlasting puppy because she died when she was 19.
Oh, that's
And
such a great
she
age.
didn't
Yeah.
want to go. She didn't want to go, but her body was like failing on her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's hard,
Yeah.
it's a really hard. I remember my cat Johnny and my cat Heidi and my cat Zoe. He actually replaced kind of sort of. She was black and white, but I remember like when I had to make a decision. It's the hardest decision you ever make because you want to be selfish. You want to keep them around forever.
Yeah.
And then you realize, okay, they
Yeah.
want to go, and you have to help them go.
I felt like, maybe I should have put my dog to sleep a little earlier, but she didn't want to go. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was weird. I almost had
You
like
know.
this weird spiritual, connection to
Oh
that
yeah.
dog, you know. It was very interesting, and it was sad. But I made like my phone on Google, made like an automatic collage of all these pictures
Oh.
of her. So I got a big poster size, version of that at like CVS, and
Wow.
it was cheap and easy to make. And now she's above my bed, so she's like my little dream catcher.
Oh,
And,
I love that.
and
Oh,
it's interesting because I had never had any dreams like after she died up until like a few weeks ago, and I've had a
really?
couple dreams with her in it. In fact, I just had a dream with her earlier this week. I was riding my e-bike, and she was like in the basket seat of it, and I don't have a basket on it. It was really interesting. You know how I have like these weird oddball dreams sometimes. And then
Yeah.
like a week or two prior to that, like she came and visited me again and we're like hanging out in the dream. It was really interesting.
Oh,
Uh,
that is so sweet.
and dreams, I'm very spiritual, so like dreams, especially like that are symbolic when it's not like a reoccurring thing. Well, even reoccurring dreams can be, but I feel like, she was coming down from wherever to like, say hi and visit. So
Oh, that is so sweet.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It's weird. I hardly ever remember my dreams, and like if you like this week, like last week, a few times I'm like, wow, that was so fucking weird. Like I couldn't find. It was like always about not being able to find my keys. Or one time I couldn't find my phone, and every door was kind of like a danger, wherever I would go, and it was just like really weird people. And then at some point I was like, I don't care. Whatever, because I always look for my phone. It's like so ridiculous. But I find it I'm with you. I find dreams very interesting and also very revealing. And probably there's a reason why I don't remember most of them, but I try to, I try to, or at least like the feeling what it meant. I don't know if you've ever had that. The one time I was dreaming and I remember it so vividly because it was so dark and beautiful at the same time. There was this big, I guess, an apocalypse. And I was standing there and it was like snowing, a big snowstorm, and I was living by the Great Lakes at the time, and it was like, the water, and I was standing there and I saw these big waves just coming, and I looked around and everything was gone. I was just standing there by myself, knowing that this is it. This is it. This is it. This is the end of the world. No one is left. I must be the last one. And I actually embraced it. It was scary. And then at the last minute, when I saw it all, like just, I'm like, there's nowhere I can go. Behind me, it was happening, when those bridges fall and everything just crumbles. And
And you
man, I
woke
was
up,
like,
huh?
yeah, it's fucking whack. But it was enlightening at the same time. It was
Yeah.
weird. I was scared and then I wasn't. I was like, all right, surrender.
Dreams like that are like a mental, like a emotional response. Like something in your life is triggering you to have that dream, and the dream is supposed to be like a reminder or some kind of message. I definitely have been visited before, by a friend of my mentor when he passed away, the guy I was talking about, Vinny.
Yeah.
And I didn't mention that he unfortunately passed away in 2012 of diabetes at age
Oh,
49, very young.
oh man.
And that's what got me into the health and felt wellness and fitness, getting my shit together more than ever. Is him pulling me aside and be like, "It's too late for me. Should have listened to you before, but now it's not too late for you.
Yeah.
You know, let me be a good life's lesson in that sense. And I'm
Mm.
reminded of that every day because the owner of Brick by Brick, when I had my studio, gave me one of the urns with some of his ashes in it,
Oh.
and it's sitting. I have this like little spiritual nook, and I put like gemstones, and I have my essential oils over there, and I put like pictures of people that have deceased, passed away over there as kind of like a little protection area. And he came and visited me a couple times, which was interesting. And this is going back to saying, when that dreams are symbolic and they mean something. And it was really weird because this was a reoccurring one. So two times I'm at the Jumping Turtle at this other venue I ran for a while, and he was the sound guy there when he left Brick by Brick. And that's how I ended up working at Jumping Turtle too. He invited me to come up there and help shape that venue up. Uh, First time, I was like, "Oh my God, you're dead! What the hell?" And he's like, "Ha ha ha!" And he was like, such a wise ass in real life. He's like, "I faked my death. I had to keep you guys all on your toes." Like what? And then I wake up and it was like I felt like like Seinfeld, where it'd be like, "No, man." I was like, "Benny, what the?" Yeah, I literally woke up like this. I was like, "God
That's
damn,
funny.
that little fucker!" And then that was like shortly after he passed away, right? So fast forward, I don't know, few weeks later, month later, whatever it was, Same scenario. I'm at a show that I threw and watching, I think it was like my TSOL, my favorite band or whatever. And then all of a sudden I see him again. But this time he has a concerned look on his face and he's like this because he can't, it's so loud, he can't like tell me what he wanted to say. And it looked like he had like laryngitis, but he had a serious look on his face. He was trying to tell me something important. And as it goes like this, it has me put my ear to his mouth as he's about to verbalize that whatever message he wanted to tell me that I could hear, boom, I wake up.
Mm.
And again, I'm just kind of like, fucking Vinny. Well, I was like, and that was it. I've never had another dream about him since.
Maybe it
And
was just saying that pay attention to what is being said, like really listen,
yeah, yeah. Like,
listen.
I've tried to transcribe those dreams. Some
Yeah,
the first one he was just fucking joking around.
yeah.
That one, it was like he would rarely get like really serious unless like something really emotionally was going on in his life, like
Mm.
when his father passed away. And it was interesting when he died, we found out that he was adopted, and so was his brother. His
Oh.
brother was adopted. His brother came out to San Diego, and his brother looked just like him too. I was like, "Are you sure you guys weren't like separated at birth or something like that?" You know?
That's
Uh,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. Dreams are they're
Well, it's our
special.
subconscious. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
our subconscious,
Our
when you
subconscious is
yeah,
trying to tell us something,
yeah, yeah,
you know. I try to remember them as much as I can, but there's a reason why we forget them for the most
yeah,
part,
yeah.
you know?
And just remember like certain parts that we have to remember or should remember. Yeah, I totally get that. I'm with you with that. And I really like, I think the more I meditate, because I really love meditation and visualization, like I feel like the more you do that, the more you get in touch with your intuition, and then you can really tap more into that, the deeper
Yeah,
messages. Because everybody's so caught up in the noise. There's so much noise coming at us, like you were saying earlier, all the chaos in the world. And honestly, it's funny because I unsubscribe to all of that shit. I'm like, you know what? Fuck politics, fuck all this like left and
right.
right bullshit. And I really also hate cancel culture because we live in a world where, you say the wrong thing and everybody fucking hates you because you just spoke your mind. And screw all that, because if you can speak your truth, then you are never going to be free.
That's what I'm saying.
Like you were saying. And that's probably a reason why, obviously, not everybody's going to like you. And there's a saying, right? If I'm not your cup of tea, get coffee. But I think a lot of people are very intimidated by people that are just so confident that you don't have to use your ego. You just being real. And being real is really rare these days because everybody is pretending to be something they are not to keep up with the whatever,
There's a lot of bitterness out there.
Yes,
You know what I
yes.
mean? Like I've had rivalries before with people that are intimidated by me, bitter, whatever, haters. You're always gonna have haters.
And it's good to have haters because you want to have
Yeah.
haters. That means you're
You know,
doing something right.
it's not our faults that, these people are too insecure to go out and do what they want to do. I even told one guy one time, I was just like, you know what? Don't be afraid to go out and pursue your dreams. You
Yeah.
make your dreams reality. I posted videos about that on YouTube, social media. I talk about that sometimes. Like last year, a lot. I was, taking my dog for a walk. I would post these videos, and tell people to go out and go for a walk because it's so good
Yes.
for you holistically, and it'll just help ground and center you and get you ready for your day. You know what I mean? Go first thing in the morning. And
Yeah.
and the same thing I tell all my patients, because a lot of my job centers around helping, people make smarter lifestyle changes. And I use a lot of references about myself to help ensure that kind of trust and motivation in people, when I feel it and deem it necessary, and we're not perfect, like a lot of people are so caught up with, especially now more than ever, in this huge rat race of being relevant and followers and all this. And, I'll post videos. Sometimes I was like, I have organic, real followers. I don't need this digital bullshit world
Yeah.
that we're trapped in. Then there's some people that I really like following too that are really provocative and posting really interesting, mindful content, and in your face real content. We need to be kind to one another and you were talking about cancel culture. Like it's so lame how like people will film you, or you can't say a certain thing, or like you can't jokingly use like the word retarded like
Oh
we did.
God. Okay,
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. People are more hypersensitive than ever,
yeah,
and more political driven than ever.
because
How
they're
many times have you
programmed.
yeah,
Yeah.
how many times have you run into that problem where you are commenting on a news article or a post or something like that, and everyone's making it political,
Yeah.
political this, political that, or like people can't even pass away peacefully anymore. Look at Chuck Norris.
Oh
People
God.
are hating and shitting on him. Then there's others praising. But you know what? I've seen so many people come to his aid and be like, you know what? So he was a Trump supporter. So he was a very devoted, hardcore Christian. He was still, at the end of the day, a very stand-up, nice, family man. You know what I mean? Who never hated on anyone, never spoke negatively ever. I mean, I asked someone, I was like, have you ever seen Chuck Norris do anything negative ever?
Right.
Like, no. I was like, then why are people shitting on him?
Yeah. Because
Look at
they
Michael Jackson, that new biopic's coming out, and people are bringing up fucking allegations again. Now that's a whole different story.
that whole bullshit, it's like it makes me
But
so I actually have to like distance myself from it because I got so pissed about this shit. But I'm like, we all know, like he got killed. Like so did Prince, so did Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell, probably
it's same
because
same way,
same
same
way, you know?
so eerie. Yeah.
Yeah, it is eerie because they all were gonna say something, and if you say anything about the industry or the pedo kind of ring, which is like it's a real fucking thing, and everybody was like, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist," and suddenly it's like, "Oh, really? Look what's coming out now," and now you're freaking out about this. This shit has been going on forever.
Oh,
So it's really sad to see that and to ruin someone's life, and then when someone is dead, like Michael Jackson, and then to drag his name through the dirt like that, I think this is like just the lowest of the lowest that anyone can do. Stop listening to his music and blah. And I'm like, man, this
or
fucking.
people trying to bring up lawsuits. I was like, the guy's been dead
I
since
know.
2009. Like, like that whole documentary that came out. I was like, oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry
yeah.
that he want to hire you,
They
and
all want to
after
make money off that shit. It's
yeah,
all about greed and power and.
that's the thing. That's just notoriety and trying to make a quick buck off of
Yeah.
somebody that
Yeah.
is controversial. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That you had somewhat of a relationship with. And it's just a sad state of affairs to see people that have to be so greedy and get to that like low level.
Yeah.
Like I can't freaking stand it. You know what I mean? I would rather like be associated with someone that lives more of a private life than someone that's glued to social media all the time. Like I have influencer friends and I've watched them change just like like any musician or anyone that's succeeded in any kind of like business, and it's
Yeah.
just it's sad. I was like, you are so obsessed with yourself and have become such a big narcissist that I don't even know who the fuck you are anymore. You're not the person
Mm-hmm.
that I once knew. Then there's others that have not led that kind of notoriety and success go to their heads. There's people I'm associated with, people that I follow, but a lot of those so-called narcissists, they can't handle any kind of feedback or criticism. And I told one, I was like, then don't ask in your post, what do we think about whatever topic you're talking about?
Exactly.
You can't handle something that you don't want to hear. Like not everyone's gonna like praise you just because they're following you. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that follow just to hate on.
Oh
Them.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, some people I'm like, where do you even have the fucking time and energy to like troll? Like there was like a no doubt they're playing a bunch of shows and there was so many mean comments about Gwen. And I'm
Yeah.
like, really? Like, why are you shitting on someone who's been around forever? She has done nothing wrong ever because she now suddenly she likes to pray and you bashing her for that. It's like so fucking dumb to me. But don't you think that I now see this so clearly that I was protected because I wanted fame, I wanted fortune, right? Like I wanted
Yeah.
to be a famous artist and I don't think I could have handled all that shit. I at some point I even said to my bandmates, I said to Jim, where do I sign up for the Illuminati? I'm in. I wanted it really bad for a minute. And then looking back, I'm like, but then when the label was like, yeah, we love you, but you have to change everything basically. Your bandmates, you have to change the way you look. I'm like, I'm out. I'm out. You haven't even given me any like a deal, like what kind of money you would give me. And I would never say to someone, hey, you're out of my band because the label doesn't like you. That's just like, so yucky and disgusting. So don't sell your fucking soul because when you look at all the artists, I just had a conversation like a week ago. I'm like, if you look at 90%, I would say, of all the people that had a really amazing career, Justin Bieber, Britney Spears are perfect examples of that. Man, are they miserable. Man, are they
Yeah, look at
fucked
Britney Spears
up.
just been
They're
on a high
fucked
speed
up.
car chase. Like,
They're fucked
yeah,
up. They don't
yeah.
even, they can't even function anymore because they've been drugged. They've been so manipulated. So,
Oh,
yeah, the fame and fortune, what did it bring you? What did it get you? You can't even enjoy life anymore.
yeah, and some of them are just so permanently messed up
Yeah.
because of
And nobody
that.
wants them to be well. Nobody wants
Like the
them.
Holly Weird and all the, like the Harvey Weinstein,
Yes. You know,
craziness, Nickelodeon, that whole documentary. I mean, look at them, like, actresses like Amanda Bynes, like she went from like being a Nickelodeon star to, like, yeah, having a prominent film career and whatnot, and was never the same because of it. And now unrecognizable appearance,
it's
it's just
crazy.
it's sad how this industry can affect people. Like, I'm so thankful that I would talk to people and the artists I work with because I'm so easy to talk to. They would sit down and we'd have these really in-depth conversations, a lot of people. And I could crack like almost everybody's ego, and bring out this level of humility. I did that to Kid Rock when he was at Brick by Brick,
I love Kid
you know,
Rock.
because we booked Zach Brown Band, and he, I guess, had something to do with helping launch Zach Brown's career. So he came down, and I was like, "Hey, you remember this place?" Because we still had a contract from him and everything. And it was really funny. And he's like, "Yeah, it kind of, seems familiar." I was like, "Well, you played here in 1997." He's like, "How do you know?" And I was like, "Well, because we still have your contract from that night."
That's
And
awesome.
the promo pic that you sent, and he's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "You saw that picture?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Go get it." And he's like, "Go get the contract too." And I brought it out to him. And he's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "Look how many people I drew." He's like, "What does that say on there?" I was all, "You have 22 checks. So you drew 22 people. The locals outdrew you." He's like, "This is back in the Joey C days. And I was doing more of the Chicago hip hop thing." And he's like, "How much should I get paid?" I was like, $400. He's like, "Oh my God." So he signs 22 paid, 100 cash, on the picture. And it was such a funny experience. He's like, "Who the fuck are you?" I was like, he's all, "You can call me Bobby." And he was just like, it was like, I mean, look at him now, he's just so crazy now. But this is back in like '08, something like that, and '07. And I saw pictures from that night that I took with him, and he was just like, when you pop his ego and you're hanging out with not Kid Rock but Bobby, it was such a cool individual. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Goes back to what I was saying. I was like, I've had all these interesting conversations, especially about like the industry. I remember I booked Cherry Poppin' Daddies and the bass player from that band, and I started talking and rapping out before the show after their sound check, and he's like, "We're not just like a swing band like everyone thinks we are. We're a multi-genre rock band." He's like, "People don't realize that." And he's "You want to know why? Well, we're always going to be known for Zoot Suit Riot." He's like, "Remember the band Big Fish?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Those were our friends' band. Guess what happened? We pitched them to our label, and the label saw them as more marketable than us, and we got dropped." He's like, "Sulo, whatever you do not pitch your friend's band to your label if you ever get signed."
Right, right.
Or
That's
pitch
crazy.
any band.
That's crazy.
I was like, "Damn, well, all right, okay, duly noted." And that was another important lesson. And I talked to like celebrities that I'd work with about how they can't live normal lives and go out and do normal things like they used to, and they miss it. I liked working with actors that are musicians. Like I remember King Woodbine. They filmed scenes at Brick by Brick,
Mm,
and I'm sitting there talking about King Woodbine because he was like not acting in the movie. He was on stage playing, which I thought was kind of weird in a scene. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, music's where it's at. So I wish I could really have a
mm.
career as a musician, but my acting career is where I make my money. And he's still putting out records to this day. Like I thought about that the other day, and I went up and looked online to see if he had anything new. And yeah, he's still putting out music. And then there's other, people that try to be, use their notoriety to be cool guys and be, a rock star. Like I worked with Adrian Grenier from Entourage, and that was a real interesting experience. You know what I mean? I just thought that guy was like the biggest method actor ever. I was like, this guy think he's Vinny Chase playing here? I was like, what just happened here? Like Jared Leto was not the friendliest to come across when 30 Seconds to Mars when we worked
Mm,
with him. Like,
mm.
like it's
Interesting.
kind of disappointing when you see that
Oh
happen.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I remember talking Veronica Marsh on an episode of Brick by Brick, and I was sitting there talking to this really cool lady. She was the wardrobe supervisor, and she's all, drop any name you can think of right now, any actor, celebrity, and I'll tell you if they're cool or not if I've worked with them. And we had to. It was shocking to hear like the feedback. You know what I mean? Because what you see is not always what you're gonna get. And
No.
yeah, I mean these are life's lessons that I was taught at an early age, and I'm so thankful to have had that. And I'm working on putting that all in a book right now,
I was
actually.
gonna say you need to write a book. Like, yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for saying that.
I'm putting this into a book,
Yes.
and I came up with an interesting concept to make it really stand out. It's called The Dating Guide for Musicians. The struggle is real because I'm single again. And I was always kind of more married to my career. For a long time, I didn't really care about being in a relationship, but now I'm older, and now I'm really trying to find someone that I can settle down with. And when it happens, it'll happen. My last relationship was 4 years, and we lived together, and I learned a lot. And the dog I was just talking about was actually my ex's dog, and that's how I had this beautiful dog for the first time in my life to take care of. It was my responsibility and the bond that I had, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all going into the book and everything too. It's basically kind of a satirical self-help book, but in a sense, it's got a lot of important values, that people can take away from it and be like, wow, that was a really in-depth, humble approach. I'm not going to get list any names, of women I dated. I'm going to make references. So if you know, you know, but, like, I am going to talk about like, how hard it is and that we're not always perfect. I had a few loves in my life, and those
It's
stories are
yeah.
crazy.
Relationships are they're hard
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's two people that have and I just did a Tony Robbins event, which was like so freaking mind blowing. And they also focus on relationships. And I was like, yeah, everybody has needs. And when you don't communicate your needs and you don't meet your needs, eventually, that you grow apart. You have to meet in the middle somewhere, and you also have to be somewhat compatible. I think it's good to be different, but if you're too different and you're not willing to meet in the middle, then it's not gonna work eventually. And then most of us, including myself, I've overstayed many of my relationships where I was like, I should have left earlier, but you think maybe it's gonna work out. You become a little bit codependent, you just feel like, oh, maybe it's gonna work. I don't know. And then you let it go, and it actually is the best thing you can do because then you allow the other person to, find
well, that's
their
what happened with my last relationship.
exactly. Very sad mutual.
Or
Yeah.
said that,
Yeah.
I always jokingly said this, but I kind of meant it. I'm setting you up for the next. She had her own issues that she needed to deal with. I had my own issues I needed to deal with, and we're still really tight, and we're still best friends in that sense.
Yeah. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everybody comes in our lives is there to teach us something. And sometimes people stay together. I know people that they've met in high school and they're married, for like 30, 40 years. I'm like, holy fuck. Like,
How do you
good
do
for
that?
you. I know. I'm like, holy shit. That was definitely not in my cards. But I admire that. I'm like, hey, if you're happy and that's, it's working for you, then amazing. We got to wrap it up. I could talk to you for like 24 hours because like you have so many amazing stories that we haven't even gotten to.
I know
I
it's been like
also,
2 hours.
I know I might have to break it up into two. And I appreciate your wisdom and your knowledge about the industry. Do you have any advice for anyone? Doesn't matter, up and coming, young, or someone who maybe put the guitar, the instruments down and wants to get back into music. Are there any last words for you or like words of wisdom for your fellow musicians?
100%. Always follow your dreams. Don't be afraid to pursue something, even if it's something you're going to fail at. You know, try again, until you find something that really resonates with you, and try to make that a career for you if you can mold that into a career, or at least have it as a hobby, and don't be afraid to ask questions and seek guidance. And there's plenty of knowledge online too, with whatever you may be interested in. Even if it's something weird or different, like it's okay to be weird,
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
you don't want to be like one of those sheep. Like I've always like been immortalized as a spirit animal for loving wolves, and especially the black, lone wolf. I even have a ring that's a black like wolf, like
Oh, I
which is
love that.
interesting. But yeah, don't be afraid to be yourself. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Some people think that it is. Be kind to one another. We're living in a crazy time right now where we need more influential people spreading, love and peace. I've seen people go from, angry individuals to me, talking to them and learning, oh, this is all post trauma, that
Yes.
you have trapped inside of you. Like,
Yes.
and let people know that you love them. Life is fragile, and don't hold things back in your life. You know what I mean? Like, you speak your mind, be who you are, live your life like to its fullest. Don't let things slip by.
Amen. I love that. Thank you. I always ask my guests, what is one of your favorite beverages, like in the morning or throughout the day? Like, what's your go-to, like, can't wait to have that.
So I've never been a coffee person.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I've always been kind of sensitive to caffeine, and I've never acquired a taste to it. But over the years, I've started drinking green tea.
Mm-hmm.
I love having green tea in the morning, especially when I go to work, and I'm a big advocate for that. And yeah, that's like my go-to drink,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm out and about and I want an adult beverage.
What's that one?
That one is definitely, I've been on the meal train. I like a good Moscow mule.
Okay.
And
All right.
like when I go to like an event and they have cut waters, I love getting their meals.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that too.
Or
And yeah, what is your pet peeve? One of your
my
biggest pet peeves?
wow, pet peeve. Really insecure people. I'm trying to
Yes. Love that.
people that are, just ego. The biggest pet peeve I have is people that are so ego driven, think they're know-it-alls about everything, especially, a lot of these influencers I can't stand, and I've gotten into it with like a ton of them because they're such narcissists. I just can't stand people that can't stand not always being right. You know what I mean? People that can't truly be themselves, and I feel like it's such a facade, of
Yeah.
what you see online, these personalities, because it's so hypocritical. You know what I mean? It's going back to what I was just saying earlier, like be who you truly are. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to present yourself in that form and practice what you preach.
Mm.
So people that are hypocrites, people that are all about, looks and success and greed and popularity, I've always felt I went from like an outsider, wanting to be a follower and accepted to being in more of a leadership role and watching how fake, that kind of popularity is. People that, because I don't forget things, people that are, taking advantage of me over the years, over time, think they can just come around. And I'm just like, and I'll still be kind to them, cordial, but I'll be like, you're stupid if you think I'm going to give you a job or, like,
Yeah.
how dare you, but I've always been taught to teach kindness,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's hard to always be kind to one another, especially when you have a disagreement with people. But in this world, what we need more than ever is we need to learn how to respectfully agree to disagree. Like I would make a really good diplomat. I would love to sit there in the House of Congress and just try to, peacefully, communicate and make peace with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like the world will be a better place if there was more mediators out there rather than
Mm.
let's just go and kill everything, and war, war, war.
Yeah. Well, there's no money in that. That's the problem. And there's no
Yeah,
drama.
I know.
People love drama. They're just fucking addicted to drama. And it's not their fault because we're just so programmed to it, to seek what's wrong, to seek out who doing what. And instead of just looking in the mirror and saying, hey, how can I better myself today? How can I make a difference in someone else's life? Make someone
Right.
smile, say something kind. Where can people find you?
I'm pretty easy to find. My name's pretty unique, so you can just search Sulo King. I mean, if you Google it, a ton of stuff comes up. I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram. I have a YouTube channel that is packed full with all kinds of different stuff from the live shows that I've been to the inspirational, motivational videos that I've posted, stuff of me performing with the band, just my life's adventures. I'm very artistic and creative, so I just love having that kind of format, of being online and being able to showcase who I am. And I'm very responsive too. So if someone reaches out, wants to have a conversation, I always tell people this, and I'm always here if you need me, and I live up to that, especially during COVID. A lot of people, were depressed, and I would try to go on Facebook Live and just try to boost, general morale.
Mm-hmm.
I love being online and being present. Like I would make a good influencer, but it's just going viral. You need to have a little controversy, I guess.
Yes, you do.
You know,
Just be you. You're doing an amazing job. Well, thank you so much for being on the
likewise.
show. And thank you for sharing so many funny, awesome stories and shining your light. It's really much appreciated. And I look forward to new music and maybe future collaborations. Who knows what the future brings? But very much appreciate you for being here and have an amazing rest of your day. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's so good to reconnect with you again.
Likewise. Take
All right.
care.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Today's sponsor is Jack Van B, the sun protective shawls that you definitely want this season because we love the sun. It's so therapeutic, so healthy for us, but too much of anything is not a good thing, and you don't want to end up looking like a lobster or a handbag. The sun protective shawls are so fun. I have the hoodie top as well as the regular ones. They are so fun because they're easy to carry with you. You can wrap them around your neck if you want to. They're really great when you're driving in your car to avoid the driver's arm getting sunburned while you're driving within the car. They're functional, they're fashionable, they really help you not only protect yourself from the sun, but look freaking cool. So grab yours today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I know your time is valuable and I appreciate you so much for being here. I would love for you to share this with a friend if that message really resonated with you. And also, if you would like to follow Sulo, all the links are in the show notes, as well as what we've talked about today. And if you really love this podcast, give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us, sign up for the mailing list so that you get the ABCs of happiness by yours truly. And if you need help with your social media, definitely Pink Star Media is your solution. I am creating short form content, video editing, as well as funny scroll stopping ads with either your AI clone or without it. What's great about that is you don't have to hire a team to create the ad. You don't have to hire actors or find a location. I can do all of that for you in-house. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely reach out to me. And with that said, I'm going to let you go. As always, make every day a great day, and always, always follow your bliss. Take care.
Stop me, they can't.